work with any of the artists, like with them while they were doing the project?
Oh, yeah.
Were any of them, like, tell us about working with artists?
They're great. Artists are always really, really interesting. And, I've spent my life working with artists on, because I ran a contemporary art space in Portland, Oregon, and I worked at museums before that. So when I came here, what I was most excited about was working with the artists and seeing what could happen. And so when they come, we talk about possible ideas, possible budgets. There has to be a feasible budget that we work out generally. We don't rely on the artist to do the budgeting. We don't even rely on the artist to make the works. Like the bear was Tim Hawkinson's idea to make an animal out of stones, but and we thought it was a great idea. And it had to have some scale, of course, but then we went looking for the rocks, and we had to have a big enough rock for the torso to have it be impressive or whatever. But it was really hard to find that rock and we had to find the torso first, because you couldn't choose legs and arms to be in scale without having a torso rock. But when we finally, after negotiating with Boy Scouts who own land around here, because you see the rocks all over the place around here, but you can't get to them, you can't see the underside, you can't blast them out, you can't get a crane to where they are to get them onto a truck. So it was hard. It took us a year and a half or so to find the rocks. And finally the Pala Indians turned us on to this old quarry, and there was the torso rock. So we got Tim down from LA, where he lives, the artist, and he, chose some rocks. And then we had to ship it down. The big rock weighs 217,000 pounds. It's solid granite. So it had to come down on an 18-axle truck in the middle of the night with a 4-car police escort. And then we had to figure out how Tim was going to work with these rocks. I mean, the arm weighs 33,000 pounds. It's not like he could lift them up and place them and then change them around. So we had the rocks scanned, and then you should get a picture of the miniature rocks, the exact replicas of the miniatures, we took the scans to the supercomputer center, and they spit out, they can do this 3D, I forget what they call it, I think it's 3D printing or something, but anyway, they made exact small replicas, and then Tim figured out exactly how he wanted them all to fit together, and then we had to find engineers who would know how to put it in and make it earthquake proof, because everything has to be earthquake proof. So all of that, in that case, it's not like Tim making an object that we buy and then bring here. We in this next one, we're going to do the same thing. We always, the artist is there. Every decision that doesn't have to do with engineering, or every decision that affects the appearance of the work is made by the artist, but they don't necessarily do the actual building.
Michael Asher's contribution to the campus is a drinking fountain that is made from granite. It is an exact replica of the metal drinking fountains that are found in business structures. It is strategically placed next to an American flag and a granite landmark commemorating Camp Matthews, a World War II training center which occupied UCSD's land decades ago. These objects together represent the relationship and continuity of the institutions of defense and education. It also acts to notify the public of the ongoing problems in Southern California with water conservation and management. Michael Asher's work derives from the idea that no individual art object has a universal meaning independent of its institutional context. His work projects several cultural references into modest objects. He also creates works that question the way that art is publicized and viewed in the museums and galleries. The students at UCSD drink from the fountain before exams because it is said to be smart water.
Robert Irwin was fascinated by the eucalyptus groves east of the Manville Center. He wanted to create a contradiction to the man-made forest. To achieve this, Irwin installed 2 fence-like structures in V-forms amidst the trees. The fences are blue-violet plastic-coated, small-gauge, chain-link fencing supported by stainless steel poles, which averaged 25 feet in height. Instead of the fence acting as an obstacle, it acts as a screen reflecting the changes in light throughout the day and year, the month, and the season. Robert Irwin began his career as a painter in the late 1950s. Irwin was a recipient of a prestigious MacArthur Foundation Award in 1984. In 1992, he was commissioned to create the Central Gardens at the J. Paul Getty Center in Los Angeles. In 2000, Irwin redefined an old Nabisco factory into the Dia Beacon Art Center in Beacon, New York.
Standing, by Kiki Smith, is a sculpture of a naked woman standing on a tall tree trunk cast in concrete. The woman's position expresses vulnerability but also generosity. Dripping from her hands is water that represents the flow of life which falls into a pond below, feeding the roots of the tree. Appropriately placed between the medical teaching facility and the basic sciences building, the quiet location provides an environment to reflect on the power and limitations of medicine, life, and death. Kiki Smith is fascinated with organs, cellular forms, animals, domestic objects, and the human nervous system. Her fascination with death has created a haunting but enlightening body of work.
The piece called Sun God by Nikki de St. Phal was the first work commissioned by the Stuart collection. The vibrantly colored 14-foot bird is placed atop a 15-foot concrete arch and sited on a grassy area between the faculty club and Mandeville Auditorium. Sun God has become a landmark on the UCSD campus. Students have at various times embellished the statue with giant sunglasses, a cap and gown, a UCSD ID card, and a nest of hay with eggs. Sun God has also been adorned with earphones and radio tape player, turning the statue into a Sony Walkbird, and has sported a machete and headband for its disguise as Rambird. An annual Springtime Sun God Festival has emerged as the largest event sponsored by the UCSD Associated Students. The grassy area beneath it is a popular site for rendezvous and celebrations. Nikki de St. Phal is best known for her oversized figures which embrace contradictory qualities such as good and evil, modern and primitive, sacred and profane, and plain terror.